Hey, howdy, hey y'all, Leanna here. Welcome to part 4 of my palette collection and declutter video series. If you missed parts 1, 2, and 3, I'll have them up in the iCard so that you can go catch up. Let's hop right on into it. I'm kind of sort of doing these in alphabetical order, and I am on the M's. This is Nomad Cosmetics, She's in Parties. I love this palette, love the berries and purples and the grungy goodness. I am definitely keeping this palette. Moving on to the Gemini palette. This is the original Gemini palette, and oh my gosh, just look at it. Let's just take a moment of silence to look at the absolute amazing grungy goodness of this palette. I love this palette so much. It is absolutely beautiful, and there is nothing in the world that would make me get rid of it. Because of that, I had to get the Gemini 2 when it came out for several reasons. Look at how beautiful this is. I love the embossing in the shades. I had to get this because my daughter is a Gemini, and because she loves roses. I bought her this palette for her birthday, and they were on sale, so I had to get one for myself. Stunning. I'm keeping it. I also got the Amor y Mariposas palette. This is Ash's fault, although I'm so glad that she told me this palette was on sale. I think it was regularly $70, and I got it for something like $28, which is just crazy. It is an absolutely beautiful palette. I just love it, and yes, I'm keeping it. Those are all of my Melt Cosmetics palettes. The next is this Mauve Take Me to Paris palette, and I think I got this in a subscription box. I don't remember which one. It's a really, really pretty palette. I have not touched it. I have not swatched it. I have not done a thing to it. And I know that I am not going to use this palette, so I'm going to declutter it. The next palette that I have is this Martine 669 palette. This is the outer carton. I have not had this palette long. I have not used it. This is the case that the palette is in. Dion Loves Makeup is the reason why I purchased this palette. It is absolutely gorgeous. I have watched her use this palette a couple of times, and I cannot wait to dig into it. It is just beautiful. Yes, I'm absolutely keeping this palette. The next palette is this Makeup Revolution Corpse Bride palette. Beauty and More with Renee is the reason why I bought this palette. Y'all see how I have been influenced? It is very pretty. I watched her do a video on this palette, and I love those colors. They are gorgeous. I have used this palette once or twice, and yes, I am keeping it. The next palette is this Makeup Revolution Courage palette. It's a wild animal palette. I love the packaging. This is new to me. I have not had this long. It is absolutely beautiful. I cannot wait to use it. That looks like a really good fall palette. Yes, I am keeping it. This is Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless. This is Spirituality with Cannabis Stevia Seed Oil, which I thought was really cool. This palette was gifted to me by a friend of mine. Look at how beautiful that is. I have used this a couple of times, and it is just gorgeous. I love the packaging. It's like in a metal tin. Beautiful. And yes, I'm keeping it. Moving on to Makeup Geek, and I know that Makeup Geek is going out of business. I think that they still have a few shadows and things on their website, but this is the Matrix palette. They had 2 of them. This is the more colorful one. I have not used any of the shades in this palette yet. I wanted this palette for so long, but it was kind of pricey, and so when they said they were going out of business, I went to their website and snatched this up as quick as I could. love Makeup Geek. I was so devastated they were going out of business, and I am most definitely keeping that palette. Along with that, and I know that this is a Sydney Grace Z palette, here are the other Matrix shades. These palette that this comes in was out of stock, and I got all of the shades except for maybe one or two of them, and some of these other random shades are Makeup Geek as well. I do have a few other things in here, but you can see that I have hit pan on a couple of them. These two shades here are my absolute favorite, and of course I'm keeping this, but I just wanted to share that. Next up is my Natasha Denona collection. I have quite a lot of Natasha Denona palettes. This is the Glam Face palette. Absolutely beautiful. I believe that this is the dark. Yes, this is the dark palette, and I have not used this. I did kind of swatch this blush. Absolutely gorgeous, and of course I am definitely keeping all of my Natasha Denona palettes. This is the Natasha Denona Glam palette. I have used this quite a bit. I love this palette. It is a beautiful, beautiful palette. Love all of those cool toned shades in there. And of course Natasha Denona performs beautifully, and yes, I am keeping that. Next I have the Natasha Denona Love palette. I have used this palette quite a few times as well. It is absolutely stunning. The shades perform beautifully, and I am keeping that as well. Next I have the new Natasha Denona My Dream palette that just came out. Look at how beautiful that is. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to dig into that. It is absolutely beautiful. Of course I am keeping that. I love the packaging. That was actually done by Natasha Denona, and that is her handwriting, which I thought was pretty cool. Beautiful palette. This is the Natasha Denona Retro palette. This as well is a very beautiful palette. I have used this several times. Absolutely love it. Her shimmers are amazing, and of course I'm keeping it. This is the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. It has the shade saver with the shades on it that is actually sewn into the palette. And here's what this looks like. Beautiful fall palette. I just love it, and I love the case. It's very unique. And yes, I am keeping that. This is the Natasha Denona Zendo palette, and I know that you can't really see it because of the light, but this is what this palette looks like. This is a beautiful fall palette as well. I have used this several times too. Performs beautifully, and yes, I am keeping it. Moving on to my small palettes. This is the Leanna palette. Beautiful palette. Love this. Have used it several times, and I am keeping that. This is the Coral palette. This is a beautiful palette as well, and I will be keeping this. This is the Jubilee palette. This is a very unique palette that looks black, but it is actually a blue. I saw Debutante do an amazing look with this palette, which is the whole reason why I bought it, and I cannot wait to use it. This is the Mini Metropolis palette. Such a cute little palette. That is very fall looking as well. My camera does not want to focus on it. There we go. Beautiful little palette. This is the Cranberry palette. Beautiful, beautiful palette. I will be keeping that as well. This is palette number 3, it says, which is odd. Eyeshadow Palette 5, palette number 3. It is a beautiful palette, and you can see that I have used it. I love this palette, and I am totally keeping it. The packaging of this is different from the rest of her palettes. I don't know if this was specifically made for BoxyCharm, maybe. I believe that I got this on the BoxyCharm website, but it's the palette case itself is a little bit cheaper made than the other palettes. And then I have the Cupid palette. This is a beautiful fall palette as well. And the Peak palette. I love this Peak palette. It is very nice. Another great fall palette. And now we will move on to my Nomad Cosmetics palettes. I have quite a few of these as well. This is the Berlin Underground palette. Absolutely beautiful. I am keeping all of my Nomad palettes. This is the Cartagena palette. I just used this when I did a fishing lure look for my son's birthday. Beautiful. This is the Iceland Fire and Ice palette. I love their packaging. Beautiful palette. I'm looking forward to using this winter. Those blues. This is the Haunted Europe palette. Love the packaging. This is a beautiful palette. I love the embossing on the different shadows. Gorgeous. And Nomad is cruelty free. I love that. And I love that all of their palettes are based on a destination somewhere that they have been. It's amazing. This is their Home for the Holidays palette. Look at how beautiful that is. This is the Lake Como palette. This was on sale on their website. I don't know if they're still on the website, but I think I paid like $9 for this palette. It's so pretty. This is one of their newer palettes. This is the Monteverde palette. I love that this is their shade saver. It is a piece of paper, which is perfect for the environment. And look at those beautiful shades. Beautiful palette. This is the Paradise Islands palette. Absolutely gorgeous. And I have used this palette. I believe that I used this in a collab with Andy from Andy Does Stuff. Gorgeous. Beautiful summer palette. This is their Tuscany palette. Oh, I love those shades. This as well is on sale on their website if they're still available. I picked this up at the same time as the Lake Como palette. This is another one of their newer palettes. This is the Fêtes de Provence. I know I am not saying that right. I love that this palette came with a little bag of lavender, and it smells, oh, it smells so good. And this palette as well has the paper shade saver. Such a beautiful palette. I love the color story in this palette and the little bees. Beautiful. That purple. Look at that purple. Gorgeous. And of course the Hudson Valley palette, which is the palette that was just released. Beautiful fall palette. I just love the packaging. And look at these beautiful fall colors. Oh, I can't wait to use it. And this is the Whistler Snow Lodge. Look at how beautiful that is. I love those blues. Stunning. And this shade right here, gorgeous. So those are all of my Nomad palettes, and now moving into the O's. I have this OPV Beauty Spotlight palette. And it is so pretty. I had this palette once. I think I got it in one of my subscription boxes. And I gave it away. And then I won it in a giveaway. So I figured that I should probably keep it. I do want to try to use it. I have not used it yet. I want to use it and see what I think. And it may end up being decluttered at a different time. And then I have a couple of Ofra palettes. This is the Symphony palette. And I used this when I unboxed it. I don't remember what box it was in. BoxyCharm Premium is the box that it was in. And, I mean, it was okay. I wasn't super impressed. I'm not super impressed with Ofra as a brand anyway. So I am going to declutter that palette. I have another Ofra palette. This is the Smoky Eyes palette, and I actually ordered this palette from off of their website. It is a very, very pretty palette, but again, I'm not super impressed with their formula. I know that their highlighters are really, really good, but this palette just didn't impress me, and like I said, the brand really doesn't impress me now that I've learned more about them, so I'm decluttering that one as well. This is the One Size by Patrick Starr Visionary palette. And I believe that I got this in a boxy, it could have been a boxy luxe. I don't remember. I used it when I unboxed it, and to be honest, I was not super impressed with the formula. I decided that I may possibly try it again. I don't know. I feel like I need to try it again before I declutter it. I'm just not super impressed with it. I mean, it looks pretty. I think I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. So far, I have decluttered 36 palettes. If I add these 4 to it, that will be 40. I know that this doesn't seem like a lot in this video, but most of the palettes that I showed in this video are palettes that I love and want to keep, but I'm still impressed that I have done 40 palettes. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for part 4 of my palette collection and declutter series. Before you go, show that like button some love. And as always, I'd like to remind you that makeup is meant to enhance the natural beauty that you already are. And we are all beautiful at any age and any size. Find something to be grateful for today, pull your makeup out and play with it, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye-bye. Christopher, you should take me to Paris, okay? Because your mama loves you. That's all I got. It's now 4:13 a.m. I got nothing, son. I love you.